A standout choice of game to play on modern consoles, PC, and Stadia is the Hitman World of Assassination trilogy, a series of games where you follow a secretive assassin codenamed Agent 47 as he travels across the globe carrying out kill contracts for the International Contract Agency, or ICA. The game stemmed from a series that has gone a long way. Coming off the heels of IO Interactive since the beginning of the whole millennium, it stands today as one of the last surviving series of stealth games on the market, and it's seen its fair share of ups and downs, from humble beginnings to one of the most critically acclaimed games of all time, to its worst installment and even threat to its own publication, to a significant resurgence in popularity. Hitman has survived it all. With the latest release of Hitman 3 being the most successful across the entire franchise, it's safe to say that the IP isn't going anywhere, and that it's garnered a widespread player base up to now. But although modern Hitman is known for its plethora of content and continuous updates, the classic 2000s Hitman delivers a simple formula that serves as the stepping stone for where the series would eventually lead to in the present. Among the 4 Hitman games that were released throughout the decade, Blood Money is usually regarded as the best entry game into classic Hitman. Codename 47 and Silent Assassin are appreciated classics, although they haven't really aged well and from my own experience can prove incredibly frustrating. Yet sitting in the middle of all of these games lies a little title named Hitman Contracts. Serving simultaneously as a new experience and a remake of Codename 47's levels, Hitman Contracts has gone severely overlooked in the years since its release. As a Hitman title, it does a great job fleshing out a lot of the issues present in the previous titles while forging an identity of its own. But as an entry into the classics, well, that would have to depend on the actual game. Does Hitman Contracts get right what IOI started and deserve more recognition from its player base, or does its age show like its predecessors? Well, that's what we're gonna find out today. My name is dehparticles, and in today's video, I'll be giving my thoughts on Hitman Contracts. Hitman Contracts embodies the same gameplay mechanics that the previous 2 games did, and refines many of the additions made to Silent Assassin. The game is played from the third-person perspective of Agent 47 as he completes kill contracts through various methods, accommodating a wide array of weapon choices like firearms, kitchenware, and the classic fiber wire. In each mission, you're presented with a choice of whether or not you want to move things as stealthily as possible. Provided you only kill your targets and don't raise any alarms, you can get the Silent Assassin rank and earn new weapons to use across missions. But in order to make this happen, the player has to be aware of several things when playing. Firstly, although it's easy to just strangle or shoot your targets without detection, certain missions give you access to a specific method of assassination such as poisoning, killing your targets while avoiding any hints of murder. Next, the suspicion meter makes its return and functions the exact same way it did in the previous game. If a player performs certain actions such as excessive running, entering restricted areas, or standing just a bit too close to the guards, the suspicion meter will bounce back and forth until the guards detect 47 and begin to open fire. There are many things that can impact the suspicion meter and how fast guards notice that someone is dead, so it's best to act quietly before your cover is blown. Lastly, 47 can perform many different actions at a time. For example, if he's near a door, the controls will allow him to lockpick the door, look through the keyhole, or just open it. You know, standard door things. If he's near a body, he can drag it away from prying eyes or steal their clothes as a means of disguise. There are many different context-sensitive applications to the gameplay that make Contracts feel more sandbox-like and give the player freedom of choice in maneuvering the maps. Accommodating these with the earlier mentioned refinements to Silent Assassin mechanics, the gameplay balances out what was implemented in past games, presenting a refined experience to the player. But otherwise, that's the basic gist of the gameplay. The story of Hitman Contracts is not too fraught with anything spoilery, as you could essentially just skip it over plot-wise, but it incorporates a noticeably darker tone. The date is March 17th, 2004. 47 is at an opera house in Paris commencing another contract, but on his way back to a hotel, he's intercepted by a French police officer and critically wounded. Collapsing from shock, 47 begins to experience hallucinations of many of his past contracts that occurred after the events of Silent Assassin. These took place in Romania, Siberia, England, and the Netherlands, some of which having other objectives besides just killing your targets. But at the halfway point of the game's 12 missions, 47 begins to hallucinate about almost all of his missions from Codename 47. On the inside, 47 re-experiences all of these missions from a darker point of view as Contracts explores the psychological effects of contract killing. But on the outside, 47 fights for his life as the agency attempts to save him from his critical wound, with the whole ordeal taking place all inside his hotel room. Save for the memories of people he's seen across his missions, and his handler, Diana Burnwood, the story of Hitman Contracts is the perspective of a man who is mostly alone. A scenario which adds to the contrast of Contracts compared to the rest of Hitman at large, so for any enthused fan and player, the story will leave you hooked. I myself found a large area of enjoyment wondering to myself what was going on, so even for new players who might not understand the context, the game will have your back and make sure you're covered. But that's only the story. What about the rest of the game? Contracts is surely an adventure in and of itself, but what can be said about it as a game? The graphical detail is about what you'd expect from a game released in 2004, but I actually really loved how they looked. For what it shows, the environments are believable and look well structured as you move around, especially considering how each mission in the game takes place at night. This is further embellished on through more minor details as well. Contract's graphical detail was the most advanced in the series during its time, so things like real-time shadows running on 47's side add a sense of realism, and I think they speak for themselves. At least when I started playing the game, I was astonished at the staunch improvement compared to Silent Assassin, and the technical prowess used to enhance these graphics is to thank for that. Although this enhancement depends on where you play the game, the options across your version are mostly the same. The game gives you multiple options for changing the in-game graphics such as shadows, draw distance, and weather effects. Additional and more complex settings exist for PC that help you run the game as best as your PC can, a welcome accessibility touch from the developers. Besides the in-game visuals, however, there also exist cutscenes that differentiate the game's perspective in regards to the plot. This time around they're pre-rendered video files, which has the unintended side effect of appearing grainy, but they otherwise look really well animated and offer more distinction towards the quality of the game. So overall, the graphical quality of Contracts, in conjunction with the game's darker tone, is a step up from Silent Assassin and in my opinion looks the best out of all the classic Hitman games. Speaking of darker tone, the composure of the game's background music is remarkably dreamlike. Danish composer Jesper Kyd had a key role in composing the soundtracks of all the 2000s Hitman games, yet here his work is distinct as rather than fully orchestrated pieces, Kyd opts for more electronic sounding music through the duration of the game's story. Most if not all of the levels amount to nothing more than uncanny noise and sometimes even complete silence. Though there's always something different across each level, roaming through them brings about a sense of danger which fits with the overarching tone of the game. Although it would be nice to discern the differences between each piece, I can't discuss much more than that since the OST is rather small, clocking in at just 14 total songs. But for what it's worth, it sounds great and it gets the job done. There's also a bit of voice acting from the lines of the main characters and a few background NPCs. Sometimes characters will repeat their lines which takes attention away from everything else, but the multilinguistic presence and the delivery of Agent 47's lines supplement the audio with additional positive qualities. With additional consideration of sound effects and other licensed music appearing in the game, the audio quality of Hitman Contracts is a treat alongside Silent Assassin, and will immerse you into the game. If you were wondering about the gameplay and level of difficulty, it doesn't differ that much from Silent Assassin. You move with the camera positioned behind you in a sandbox environment as you work to kill your targets. It's just as I explained earlier in the video. But what differentiates Contracts from its predecessor, however, are quality of life step-ups from Silent Assassin. Firstly, as Contracts is half a remake of Codename 47, the updated missions are implemented in a way that I can actually play them without being ambushed for sprinting. Like forget assassination, how about track and field? Re-experiencing these missions with new mechanics not only makes the missions more fun to play, but it completely eliminates most of the problems that plagued the first installment that made them less enjoyable. Secondly, as that last joke may have indicated, the AI has seen a large revamp over the previous 2 games in the series. Simple actions like running across the map or pulling out a weapon behind the guard don't automatically cause an all-out bullet war compared to the previous games. This is especially helpful towards the level of difficulty because now you have a bit more leeway into how you can move across the map instead of moving like one step is instantly gonna kill you. Lastly, exploring menus has been made much easier. Contracts introduces a new circular inventory system that shows you the items you can equip rather than just a list. The map has also been improved to distinguish NPCs who are dead and alive, and how you're able to view a specific floor of the map you're currently on. And briefing menus, while less detailed and not popping up at you from the get-go, are easy to navigate and give you your tasks straight from the moment you open the tab. So overall, Contracts has been made into a much more refined Hitman game that makes the game fun and easily playable for newer players picking it up. Replayability wise, well, it's about as much as you can get. After playing each mission, you obtain access to revisit each one to improve on your first playthrough, meaning you have free reign to go for a stealthier approach. Exploring the level to its fullest leaves the player to discovering many of the game's secrets and opportunities, and going for the best rank gives you access to new weapons you can try out. With a number of levels in the game, there is a lot to do, but unfortunately, that's about it as far as replayability. The game is solely single player, and by the time the story is complete, you know what happens and you have the ability to continue playing for a better score each time. But even so, there is a bit of a letdown. But with fairness to the game, it was released in the early 2000s, so for what it offers, there's still enough to go by. And with the current prices of the game today, it'll leave you satisfied for however long you decide to play it for. As far as purchasing your own copy goes, you have some options, although the game hasn't been updated in quite a while. At present, Hitman Contracts is available for purchase on PC through Steam and GOG, yet the quality of this release is debatable to say the least. In my experience, the Steam release of the game doesn't even open without applying a fix beforehand. And even afterwards, the frame rate of the game has moments where 47 will move a lot slower than he should. It helps that there are fixes to all of these issues that are also extremely easy to apply, but anyone who's purchasing a game shouldn't have to go through any extra steps just to make sure that it actually works. For console players, you have a better chance of finding a copy that works for you. Secondhand releases of the original PS2 and Xbox releases actually go for cheap, with the highest I've seen on eBay specifically going at around $10. Additionally, an HD re-release of the game is included in the HD Trilogy Pack on PS3 and Xbox 360, with crisp visuals and achievement support among the improvements made to this release. This version of the game also comes with 2 other classic Hitman titles and is available for relatively cheap prices as well, so you're getting a good deal out of the collection. But yeah, there are several ways of playing the game at your disposal, available for purchase at any time. In conclusion, Hitman Contracts is a good entry into older Hitman and an underrated game all around. Over the years, Contracts has been looked retrospectively as a game to hold fans over until the release of Blood Money, but I feel like this has resulted in a level of underappreciation. A fine selection of levels improving on the series' roots while keeping that stealth action focus is what makes Contracts the game that it is. It wasn't meant to be revolutionary or implement new features, but when looking at the game as an evolutionary component of Hitman, it doesn't need to be that at all. It's pure stealth action at one of its finest. The game is fun, engaging, and presents enough for however you come across it, and that's where its charm lies. So Hitman Contracts is not the most content-filled or long-lasting Hitman game, but it's a fun Hitman game nevertheless that's worth the pickup, whether as a starting point or just a fun game to play. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm sorry it took so long to come out. Being a STEM major in college takes a lot out of you, but I still have plans for content in the future. And regardless of whether you're a fan of Hitman or not, I think these games are interesting and I want to know if you think the same way, so be sure to leave a comment in the description with your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing, it really helps me and the channel out. If you want to get notified about new uploads, consider hitting the notification bell or checking out my Twitter. I don't even use Twitter anymore, so if I tweet, you'll know there's something new. My previous video on Rhythm Thief and the Emperor's Treasure is also on screen and in the description, so if you want to know about a hidden 3DS gem, please be sure to check that out as well. Otherwise, that's all I have to say for today. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then.